The dying world of Thrinity Minor had exactly one visitor left, and she was older than its son. Alara had been called many things across the millennia: Devourer of Fleets, the Last Ember, the Unkillable, but none of the titles mattered anymore. She lay coiled around the husk of a cathedral that predated the first starship, her scales the color of cooling magma, and she was, at long last, running out of time. Dragons did not die of old age. They died when the last person who remembered their song forgot the words. That was the old law, older than the compact, older than the war that had scattered her kind across 9,000 systems until only she remained. A dragon's fire was borrowed from belief. When the last believer died, the fire guttered, and the dragon followed. Alara's believers had been dead for 400 years. She should have faded centuries ago. Something, spite, mostly, and a stubbornness the old texts called draconic, had kept one ember alive in her chest, one flicker refusing the dark. But the flicker was small now. Smaller every year. She had stopped moving. She had stopped hunting. She simply lay in the ruins and waited to become a story that nobody told. That was when the human found her. He came stumbling through the broken cathedral doors with a scavenger's pack on his back and no idea, none at all, what slept in the shadows ahead. Alara heard his heartbeat before she saw him. Quick, human, absurdly loud in a place that had been silent for so long. She did not lift her head. There was no fire left to threaten him with, and even if there had been, she found she did not want to. Huh, the boy said, stopping dead in the doorway. You're real. His name, she would learn, was Rowan. He was younger than he looked, all sharp elbows and stubborn jaw, wearing a coat 3 sizes too big that had clearly belonged to someone else once. He did not run. That, more than anything, told her how little he understood about what she was. Leave, Alara said, and her voice came out as a rasp of ash and old thunder. There is nothing here for scavengers. No gold. No relics worth the walking. I wasn't looking for gold. Rowan crept closer, boots crunching over 4 centuries of dust. I was looking for the last dragon. Everyone said she was a myth. Everyone said dragons listen, that if you knew the right song, one might answer. Alara's ember flickered, contemptuous. Songs did not save my kind. Songs are what killed us. Beliefs. Faith. Fickle things that die the moment their believers stop believing. She finally turned her great head toward him, eyes like slow lava. You are wasting the last hours of a dying animal, boy. Go home. Rowan did not go home. He sat down cross-legged on the cathedral floor, entirely too close to a creature that could once have swallowed a Starcruiser whole, and he opened his mouth. And he sang. It was not a good song. His voice cracked twice in the first verse, and he was clearly translating it badly from some older tongue, fumbling half the syllables. But Alara's whole body went rigid, because she knew that melody. She had heard it only once before, in a language that had been dead even in her youth, sung by the first humans who ever crossed into dragon space, back when humanity was small and frightened and reaching for allies among the stars. It was the forbidden song, the one the Compact had outlawed after the war, the one that did not ask a dragon for fire or fealty or fear, the one that simply said, I see you. You matter. Stay. Where? Alara said, when he finished, her voice a splinter of its old thunder. Did you learn that? My grandmother. Rowan wrapped his arms around his knees. She said her grandmother taught it to her, and so on, way back. Said it was outlawed after the old war because it worked too well, because it didn't need faith or fire worship or any of that. It just needed one person willing to actually listen to a dragon instead of using one. He shrugged, awkward. She said someday, if I ever met a real dragon, I should sing it. Even if it seemed stupid. Even if nobody remembered why. Your species, Alara said slowly, does not remember why it does most of the things it insists on doing. And yet it does them anyway. Yeah. Rowan grinned, a little sheepish. We're annoying like that. Something in Alara's chest, something she had thought extinguished 4 centuries ago, turned over like a coal shifting in dead ash. She had spent 400 years believing the old law was absolute. No believers, no fire, no dragon. But the law had never accounted for this. For a species too stubborn to let a myth actually die. For a boy who walked into a collapsing cathedral to sing a dead song to a dying stranger, not because he wanted anything from her, but because his grandmother had told him to see her. Belief was not the same as being seen. She understood that now, 400 years too late to matter to anyone but this one absurd, elbow-sharp child in front of her. "It is not enough," she rasped, though her voice had steadied. "One boy, one song, badly sung. It cannot undo 400 years. Didn't say it would fix everything." Rowan climbed to his feet, brushing dust off his ridiculous coat. "Figured it might buy you a little more time, though. And where I'm from, a little more time is usually all you need to make trouble." He did not leave that night, or the next. He made camp in the cathedral's shattered nave and came back every evening to sing the same off-key verses, sometimes adding lines he half remembered, sometimes just humming when the words slipped away from him. Alara told herself she tolerated it out of curiosity. She told herself the warmth spreading slowly back through her scales was simple proximity to a campfire he insisted on building, nothing more. She stopped telling herself that on the 9th night, when she realized she had begun, without meaning to, waiting for him. "You should know," she said, watching him toast some unidentifiable ration over the flames, "that dragons do not forget kindness. We simply have very long memories and very short patience for it happening twice." "Is that a threat?" "It is a warning. If you keep this up, I will feel obligated to return the favor. Dragons are terrible at moderation." Rowan laughed, a real laugh, bright and unguarded, the kind that human children were supposed to have plenty of, and so rarely did anymore in a galaxy this tired. "My grandmother always said humanity's whole trick was refusing to know when to quit. Guess it runs in the family. It is going to get you killed one day." "Probably." He didn't sound worried about it. "But not today. Today it just woke up a dragon." Alara looked at him. This small, stubborn, badly singing creature who had walked further into the dark than any of the great fleets of her enemies ever had, armed with nothing but a half-remembered melody and his grandmother's certainty that it mattered. And for the first time in 400 years, she felt something in her chest that was unmistakably, undeniably fire. Not the borrowed fire of belief. Something else. Something that did not need worship to survive. "Sing it again," she said. "Properly this time. I will teach you the words you keep getting wrong." Rowan grinned like he'd won something enormous. Maybe he had. Outside, for the first time in 4 centuries, smoke began to rise from the broken cathedral spire. Not the smoke of dying embers, but the first thin curl of something ancient and terrible and humanity adjacent deciding, against every old law that had ever governed her kind, that it was not finished yet. The last dragon was fading, until a human boy, off-key and utterly unafraid, sang her back into the world, and gave her a reason no ancient law had ever accounted for, not to be believed in, but simply, stubbornly, to be stayed for.